The moment he screamed, "Then go to your parents, hope you don't freeze," I felt something in me tear. Before I could even process the cruelty in his voice, Derek slammed the door hard enough to shake the frame. The deadbolt clicked, sharp and final, and suddenly I was standing on our front porch in the middle of a brutal Michigan winter, wearing nothing but my thin lavender nightgown. The cold hit me like a punch, the kind that steals your breath before you can even scream. My bare feet slipped on the icy wooden boards, and the wind sliced through the fabric like it wasn't even there. I grabbed the doorknob, twisting it hard, banging with my fists until my knuckles burned. "Derek, are you serious? Open the door! Derek!" Silence. Just the sound of the wind howling around me. I pressed my ear against the door and heard the TV turn up. He wanted to drown me out. I couldn't believe this was my life. I'm 35 years old, married for 9 years, working full-time, paying half the bills, cooking every meal, yet somehow the man I married had the nerve to throw me out like trash. I ran to the window and tried to slide it open. Locked. Then the back door. Locked. My teeth chattered so hard I tasted blood. My fingertips went numb. The world around me blurred as panic crawled up my throat. This wasn't a normal argument. This wasn't even close. Something in Derek had been changing for months. Coming home later, smelling like cologne that didn't belong to me, talking to co-workers at odd hours, hiding receipts, hiding his phone, but I still didn't expect this. Not this level of cruelty. Not the kind of cold that made you feel like you were disappearing. The porch light flickered, casting long shadows on the snow-covered street. I looked up at the dark windows of our neighbor's house. Mr. Walden, our elderly neighbor, usually turned in early. He was kind, quiet, moved a little slower these days, but still sharp. He'd known Derek since before I entered the picture. They worked at the same manufacturing company, and Derek always bragged about how much Mr. Walden respected him. Right now, I prayed the old man wasn't asleep. But before I could even step off the porch, another violent gust of wind slammed against me, cutting through my skin like razor blades. I sank down, wrapping my arms around myself, trying to catch my breath. "God, help me," I whispered, voice breaking. The snow started coming down harder, flakes stinging my face. My lips trembled uncontrollably. I felt dizzy, the kind of dizzy that scared me, the kind that made me wonder if hypothermia set in faster than people realized. I forced myself up again and stumbled down the steps, hugging my shaking body. I'd barely made it halfway across the yard when I heard a door creak open behind me. "Amara!" A voice cracked through the night. I turned, struggling to focus my eyes. It was Mr. Walden, standing in his doorway in a robe and slippers, the porch light illuminating his silver hair and the deep worry lined across his face. "Child, what on God's earth are you doing out here like this?" My voice barely came out. He locked me out. His expression shifted. Confusion, anger, then something sharper. He stepped forward faster than I thought a man his age could. "Come inside, right now." I hesitated for half a second, embarrassment burning hotter than the cold biting at my skin. I don't want to bother." "Bother?" he snapped. "My son is your husband's boss, and if Derek Williams thinks he can treat you like this and keep his job, he's out of his damn mind." Those words sliced through the freezing air. I stared at him, heart pounding, as something shifted, like a door cracking open inside a pitch-black room. I realized Mr. Walden knew something important, something Derek never wanted me to hear. He put his arm around me, guiding me into his warm house. The blast of heat nearly made me collapse. My skin started to prickle painfully as sensation returned, and he led me to the couch, wrapping a blanket around me. "You sit right here," he said with a firmness that surprised me, "because tomorrow morning—" He paused, his eyes narrowing with something between anger and certainty. "Your husband is going to be begging." I swallowed hard. "What do you mean?" He looked toward my house with a glare I had never seen from him. "Amara, there are things you need to know, and it's time somebody told you the truth." My stomach dropped. "What truth?" He took a deep breath, his jaw clenched. "It's about Derek, and it's bad." I froze, gripping the blanket. He leaned in, and just as he opened his mouth to speak, his front door suddenly shook violently as if someone was trying to break it down. The pounding at the door rattled the picture frames on the wall. I jolted upright, clutching the blanket tighter around me. My breath caught in my throat as the banging grew louder, wild, frantic, like someone was hitting it with the side of their fist. Mr. Walden rose slowly, but there was nothing fragile about the way he moved. His back straightened, shoulders squared, the quiet gentleness he always carried, replaced with something fierce and unshakable. "That him?" he asked, voice low. I swallowed, my heart slamming against my ribs. I think so." Another violent pound echoed through the living room, followed by Derek's voice, muffled but unmistakably furious. "Open this damn door. I know she's in there. Open it, old man." I flinched. Mr. Walden didn't. Instead, he stepped toward the door with the calm authority of someone who'd seen more life than Derek could ever comprehend. When he reached the peephole, he exhaled sharply, muttering, "Drunk or stupid, maybe both." He turned back to me. "Stay right there." I nodded, but my entire body trembled, not from the cold this time, but from the sudden clarity of what Derek was capable of. Locking me out of our house in the middle of winter was one thing. Storming our elderly neighbor's home in the middle of the night, that was something uglier, something I wasn't sure I'd ever be able to forgive. Mr. Walden unlatched the chain and cracked the door just an inch, just enough to be heard, not enough for Derek to force his way in. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" Derek barked, breath smoky from liquor and rage. Even through the crack, I could see his outline. Broad shoulders, heavy boots stomping in fresh snow, the same olive green jacket he always wore when he was up to no good. "You best lower your voice," Mr. Walden said, "right now." "Where is she?" Derek demanded. "She's my wife. You can't just hide her." "Hide her?" the old man scoffed. "Boy, you put her outside in freezing weather like she was a stray dog. She's lucky she made it to my porch before she collapsed." Derek's silence was brief, but thick with guilt he tried to cover by doubling down. "That's between me and her. You don't know what happened." "I know enough," Mr. Walden said sharply, "and I know my son would fire you on the spot if he saw you right now." That name, his son, hit Derek like a brick. He straightened. "What?" "Go home," Mr. Walden ordered. "Sober up. And in the morning, you're going to face that woman you married and you're going to explain yourself like a man, because right now, you're acting like a fool." Derek cursed under his breath, pacing on the porch. "Amara," he shouted suddenly, as if I'd expected to run obediently into the cold to answer him. "Come out. Don't make this worse." My breath tightened. The urge to stay hidden fought against a lifetime of being conditioned to soothe his anger. I felt the old instinct rising. Go calm him down. Fix it. Make it right. But then Mr. Walden turned his head slightly, locking eyes with me across the dimly lit room. His look said one thing: "Don't move." And I didn't. Derek kicked the door once, just enough to make me jump, then stomped off the porch, muttering every filthy insult he could think of. The crunch of his boots faded down the walkway. Mr. Walden watched until Derek disappeared into the dark. Then he locked the door, slid the chain in place, and exhaled slowly. That boy's in trouble, more trouble than he even realizes. I sank into the couch, muscles shaking from everything I'd been holding in. Mr. Walden walked back toward me, pulling a soft fleece throw from a basket and draping it over my shoulders. "You warm enough?" "I'm trying," I whispered. My voice sounded small, too small for a grown woman who'd survived everything life had already thrown at her. But tonight had stripped away something in me, exposing a raw, trembling core I didn't even know I still had. He sat across from me. "I wasn't joking earlier," he said. "Tomorrow he'll be begging, and it ain't because of you leaving. It's because of what he's been doing at that company." My stomach knotted. "What has he been doing?" The old man's face hardened. "Skimming, cheating hours, writing off overtime he never worked. And that's before we get to the money that's gone missing from petty cash." My breath froze. "What?" "He's been sloppy, arrogant, shows up late, disappears in the middle of the day. My son's been watching him for weeks, just waiting for proof." My mind raced. Why didn't anyone tell me?" "Because we didn't know how involved you were," he said gently. "Some men give their wives everything, some men give them nothing, and some men, like Derek, use their wives as a shield." A painful, familiar heaviness settled in my chest. "What if I told you this isn't just about work?" he said quietly. "What if there's more?" My voice cracked. "More?" He nodded slowly. "Yes, more." I leaned forward, bracing myself. "Mr. Walden, what else do you know?" He hesitated, his hand gripping the armrest as if steadying himself. "Amara, your husband hasn't been disappearing during work hours." My breath hitched. "Where has he been?" But before he could answer, his phone buzzed on the table. He glanced at it and his face drained of color. He looked up at me with a tight, grave expression. "Amara, you need to see this." Mr. Walden's hand trembled slightly as he picked up his phone. For a man who held himself like iron, even in old age, that small shake was enough to send a cold ripple through my chest. Something was wrong, worse than anything he'd hinted at so far. He turned the screen toward me. A video was paused on the first frame. My heart sank as soon as I recognized the setting. The break room at Derek's job. The company logo on the wall. The vending machine I'd walked past 100 times when bringing Derek lunch on his late shifts. But it wasn't the room that made my palms sweat. It was Derek. Frozen mid-laugh with a woman sitting on his lap. She wasn't just sitting there, she was straddling him, arms wrapped around his neck like she belonged there. His hands were on her hips. Their faces were pressed close like they were seconds away from kissing, or had already been doing much more. I couldn't breathe. I whispered, "Play it." Mr. Walden did. The video came to life with grainy audio and the muffled hum of fluorescent lights. Derek laughed, a deep, familiar laugh that once made me feel seen, wanted, loved. Now it made my stomach churn. "Derek, you're bad," the woman giggled, brushing her lips along his jawline. "Bad? You ain't seen nothing yet." I slapped a hand over my mouth to keep the sound inside, somewhere between a sob and a scream. The video ended. Mr. Walden lowered the phone. His eyes were soft, steady, almost apologetic. "My son got this tonight," he said quietly. "Security footage he wasn't supposed to have yet. This ain't the first time either. We just didn't want to bring you proof until we were sure." I swallowed hard, blinking fast, trying to make sense of the pieces crashing together in my mind. The late nights, the secretive texts, the cologne that didn't belong to me, the unexplained withdrawals from our bank account, the cold way he looked at me lately like I was an obligation instead of a wife. It wasn't paranoia. It wasn't me being dramatic. It wasn't a bad phase. It was betrayal. Real, undeniable, in-my-face betrayal. My voice trembled. How long has this been happening?" The old man sighed deeply, leaning back in his chair. "Months, maybe a year. The girl's a temp worker, 23, comes from trouble. I don't know if she's using him or he's using her, but either way, he's been sloppy with her too." Tears blurred my vision. Why didn't he just talk to me? Why treat me like this? "Because men like Derek don't think," the old man said gently. "They take, They hide, they lie, and when their lies get too heavy, they lash out. They blame the person closest to them. That way, they don't have to face themselves. A quiet, broken sound slipped from my throat. He leaned forward. You didn't deserve the way he treated you tonight. You didn't deserve any of this. I wiped my eyes, but more tears kept spilling. And the money? The missing money from our account? Was that her too? That, he said slowly, is the other part. My whole body tensed. What other part? Mr. Walden took a moment, choosing his words carefully. Derek's not just cheating on you at work. He's been slipping out on weekends, saying he's picking up overtime. My chest tightened. He said the plant reopened weekends. It didn't, Mr. Walden said flatly. Hasn't run weekends since before the pandemic. I blinked. Then where is he going? To someone's apartment. Same girl. My son followed him last Saturday, got his plate on camera, got him entering the building, stayed 2 hours. I closed my eyes, feeling like the floor was pulling away from underneath me. Every lie, every half-truth, every cold shoulder had a name now, a face, a location. Mr. Walden's voice softened even more. Amara, I'm sorry. I truly am. I pressed my hand to my forehead, trying to slow the spinning in my head. What am I supposed to do with this? How do I even start? The old man leaned forward, lowering his voice with gravity that pulled me in. You start by not going back there tonight. You stay here. You get warm. You get steady. And tomorrow morning, you and we'll go see my son. I looked up, startled. Why? Because Derek has dug himself a hole so deep. The only rope he has left is you. And you deserve to know every inch of that mess before you decide your next move. My chest rose and fell rapidly. And what if he comes back here tonight? The old man's jaw tightened with quiet power. He won't. But if he does, I'll handle it. I stared at the dark window behind him. Snow was still falling hard, blanketing everything in white. But inside this warm living room, the truth began to melting everything I once believed. And then, a loud crash hit the front porch. Something or someone had just slammed into the steps. The sound was so sharp, so sudden, it sliced right through the quiet of the living room. I jumped up from the couch, clutching the blanket around me as my heart sprinted into my throat. Mr. Walden stood immediately, fast, alert, steady. For a man in his 70s, he moved with the reflexes of someone half his age. What was that? I whispered. He didn't answer. Instead, he held out his hand, palm low, signaling for me to stay behind him. His calmness made my knees wobble even more, because if he felt the need to protect me like that, it meant he knew the situation had just escalated. We walked to the front window. Snowflakes clung to the glass, blurring the outside world, but through the icy haze, I could make out a dark shape hunched near the porch steps. Mr. Walden narrowed his eyes. Stay here. Before I could protest, he unlocked the door inch by inch, opening it just enough to see without letting the warmth escape. The porch light flickered over the snow, illuminating the figure. A deer? A raccoon? A fallen branch? No. My breath stopped when Derek's head lifted. He was kneeling in the snow, a drunken mess, clutching his phone in one hand and a beer bottle in the other. His jacket was half unzipped, his hair plastered to his forehead, and his eyes, bloodshot, glazed, locked directly onto the open doorway. There she is, he slurred, pointing the bottle toward me. Though his arm wobbled so badly, it almost slipped from his fingers. There's my wife who ran off with the old man next door. My stomach twisted. I stepped backward on instinct. Mr. Walden pushed the door closed another few inches and spoke through the gap with sharp authority. Derek, go home, right now. Derek ignored him, staggering to his feet. Amara, baby, don't listen to him. Come home. Let's talk. His words fell apart at the edges. I clenched the blanket tighter. Derek, stop. Stop? He repeated mockingly. You stop. You stop trying to make me look like the bad guy. I opened the door 5 minutes after I locked it, but you weren't there. I knew it. You ran to him. He's helping me, I said, my voice trembling more than I wanted it to, because he threw me outside in freezing weather. He scoffed. It wasn't that cold. My jaw dropped. The wind outside was still howling, pushing snow across the yard in violent swirls. His breath puffed out invisible white clouds. You could have died, Mr. Walden snapped. You realize that? Derek rolled his eyes. She's dramatic. She does this thing where she acts like everything I do is the end of the world. I stared at him in disbelief. You locked me out in a nightgown, and you make everything about you, he shouted, stepping forward like he intended to push past Mr. Walden. That was it. The old man flung the door wide open, not to invite him in, but to block him with the full force of his presence. Boy, if you take one more step toward this house, I will call my son. And if I call him, I promise you, the only place you'll be going tomorrow is HR. Derek froze. The moment the name HR left Mr. Walden's mouth, something clicked behind Derek's eyes. A flash of fear, panic, a moment of clarity even alcohol couldn't blur. You wouldn't, Derek stammered. I would, the old man said, and I will. Now go home before you lose more than your pride. For a long moment, Derek just stood there, snow piling on his jacket, breathing hard, eyes flicking between me and the door like he was trying to calculate a way to reclaim control he no longer had. Fine, he muttered finally. But we're not done, Amara. You and we're gonna talk tomorrow. No, I said softly, surprising myself. Tomorrow, I'm talking. You're listening. He blinked, stunned. I had never spoken to him that way, not in 9 years. Even I barely recognized my voice. He turned away, cursing under his breath, and trudged back across the yard. I watched him struggle to walk through the snow, nearly slipping twice, before disappearing into the house across the driveway. The door slammed behind him. The second he was gone, my knees nearly gave out. Mr. Walden caught my elbow, steadying me. Are you all right? He asked. No, but I will be, I whispered. Good, he said, guiding me back inside. Because there's more you need to know. But first, let's get you warm and fed. We can talk once you stop shaking. He wrapped another blanket over my shoulders and set a cup of hot tea in front of me. I didn't realize how violently I was trembling until I tried to lift the mug. Minutes passed. The warmth seeped back into my bones. My breathing slowed, and when he finally sat across from me again, his expression told me we weren't done unraveling Derek's secrets, not even close. He folded his hands. Amara, did Derek ever mention a woman named Tasha? My heart jumped. No. Why? Because she's the one he's been visiting, and she's not just some girl at work. I swallowed. Then who is she? He hesitated. She's someone with a past, a dangerous one, and I think Derek is in deeper than he ever planned to be. The room felt suddenly colder. Before I could ask what that meant, a loud ding echoed through the kitchen. Mr. Walden's phone again. He picked it up, eyes widening. Then he looked at me. Amara, he said, voice grave, you're not going to believe what my son just sent me. My stomach tightened as Mr. Walden stared at his phone, his brows pulling together so sharply the wrinkles on his forehead deepened. He read the message once, then again, then slowly lowered the phone as if the weight of it had doubled. "Amara," he said, "you need to see this." My fingers trembled as he handed me the phone. On the screen was a message from his son, Michael, the same Michael who was Derek's boss. A screenshot was attached, and beneath it, a short line. "Dad, is this real? If it is, we're in serious trouble." I tapped the image. It opened into a bank statement. No, not a statement. A flagged internal report from their company's finance department. Several large transfers were highlighted in red. Each one had Derek's employee ID tied to it. Each one showed money leaving the company. My heartbeat stuttered. These look like company funds, Mr. Walden finished, and they're not authorized. I swallowed hard, my mouth suddenly dry. He's stealing? Mr. Walden exhaled slowly. It appears that way, and it's not small amounts either. These transfers total more than half a year of his salary. A tight pressure squeezed my chest. Derek and I had been arguing for months about money. Bills overdue, credit cards maxed out, excuses piling like junk mail. He always blamed me. "You spend too much. You're not budgeting right. You don't understand how finances work." But this explained everything. He didn't lose money. He took it, or gave it, Mr. Walden said, to someone, and I have a feeling I know who. "Tasha," I breathed. He nodded. My hands shook as I set the phone down. My marriage, already cracked, was now collapsing under something far darker than betrayal. Infidelity hurt, yes, but financial crime, a federal level offense, that was life-destroying. And he had dragged me right into the middle of it without me knowing it. I pressed my palms against my eyes. Why would he do this? Why risk everything? Mr. Walden leaned back in his chair, his gaze steady. "I've worked in the corporate world for 50 years. Men who steal money rarely do it for noble reasons, and they never do it alone." I lifted my head. "You think she's involved?" "I think she's the reason." A cold wave rippled through me. The night suddenly felt heavier. The wind outside rattled the window, making me flinch. After a moment, Mr. Walden stood up. "You need to contact someone, a friend, a family member, anyone you trust. Not to pick you up," he added quickly when I opened my mouth, "but so someone knows where you are and what's happening." I don't want my parents to worry," I admitted. "Then a friend." I shook my head. "Derek isolated me from most of them." He paused. For a moment, he looked genuinely heartbroken. Then he gently touched my shoulder. "That's what abusers do, Amara. They cut you from your support system so you have nowhere to turn." Hearing the word abuser made my breath hitch, but the truth was undeniable. Locking me outside, belittling me, twisting blame, hiding financial crimes, lying, manipulating, shaming, and worst, making me believe it was all normal. I exhaled slowly. "I'm not going back to him," he said softly. "I know, and I'm proud of you." My eyes burned, but I forced the tears back. I didn't want to cry anymore, not tonight. A minute later, his phone buzzed again. He read the message and sighed. "Michael wants me to keep you here tonight, no matter what. He's already contacted the internal security team. And Amara," his voice dropped, "they want proof that you're not involved." My blood ran cold. "Me? Involved? I didn't know anything." "I know that," he said calmly, "but the law doesn't know that yet. The company doesn't know that yet. You need to protect yourself." I gripped the edge of the table. "What do I do?" "First," he said, "you stay here, safe.
Second, he hesitated a moment, then pulled a small notebook from a drawer. You write down everything you remember from the last 6 months. Every time Derek came home late, every argument, every strange call, every unexplained expense. This will matter later. I nodded. The logical part of my brain, silent all evening, finally resurfaced. Evidence, documentation, protection. I can do that. Good. I flipped open the notebook. The first page stared back at me, blank and intimidating. But once I started writing, the memories poured out faster than I expected. The mysterious cash withdrawals, the lies about emergency work meetings, the phone he wouldn't let me touch, the sudden defensiveness whenever I mentioned money, the unfamiliar perfume on his jacket, the week he came home with bruises he couldn't explain, the disappearing weekends, the missing $4,000 he blamed on a bank error, the night he threw my phone against the wall, the day he told me I was lucky he stayed with me. When I finally looked up, nearly 20 pages were filled. Mr. Walden watched quietly from across the table. That, he said, is more than enough to prove you're a victim, not a partner in his schemes. I closed the notebook, feeling a strange mixture of sadness and relief. The house was silent except for the ticking clock on the wall. I didn't realize how tired I was until my eyes began to sting. "You should sleep," he said gently. "There's a guest room upstairs." I hesitated. What if Derek comes back? "He won't," he said firmly, "and if he tries, he won't make it past the porch. My son notified the police on your behalf. They'll be patrolling the street tonight." My shoulders slumped in relief. I thank you," I whispered. He smiled faintly. "Rest, Amara. Tomorrow things will shift, and you need your strength." The guest room was warm, softly lit, with the quilt folded neatly at the foot of the bed. I slipped beneath the covers, exhaustion sweeping over me. But even as sleep pulled at me, my mind replayed Mr. Walden's earlier words. Tasha has a dangerous past. Derek is in deeper than he planned. You're not involved, but you need protection. I turned onto my side, heart thudding, staring at the shadows on the wall. What exactly had Derek gotten himself into, and how far would he go to drag me down with him? I didn't know the answers yet, but one thing was certain. Tomorrow would bring the truth, whether I was ready or not.
Sunlight crept softly across the guest room ceiling, warming my face and pulling me out of a restless sleep. For a moment, I forgot where I was. The unfamiliar room, the old wooden dresser, the floral curtains. All of it felt like a scene from another life. Then everything came rushing back. Derek locking me outside, the freezing air, Mr. Walden's voice telling me I wasn't safe, the documents showing theft, the notebook filled with months of lies. My stomach knotted. I sat up slowly, the quilt falling into my lap. A soft knock sounded on the door. "Amara?" Mr. Walden's gentle voice filtered through. "Breakfast is ready whenever you are." I ran a hand through my tangled hair. "I'm coming." When I stepped into the hallway, Mr. Walden was already there waiting, wearing a cardigan and holding a steaming mug. He handed it to me. "Chamomile, for your nerves." "Thank you." We walked to the kitchen, sunlight pouring in through the window above the sink. A small plate of scrambled eggs and toast sat on the table. My appetite was weak, but I forced a few bites down. I needed the strength. Mr. Walden sat across from me, hands folded. "Amara," he began, "I spoke with Michael early this morning." My heart thudded. "And?" "He's launching a full internal investigation immediately. Derek has been suspended pending review." I sucked in a breath. "Already?" He nodded. Michael works fast, and there's more. A chill ran through me. What? Mr. Walden took a slow breath. They've confirmed at least 15 suspicious transfers tied to Derek's login. But the strange part is, each one is routed through the same private account. And that account, he paused, it belongs to a woman. Tasha, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. I'm afraid so. My entire body stiffened. Images flashed in my mind. Her smirking in the salon mirrors, laughing the too loud laugh Derek never liked, leaning toward him during those late-night work events, her hands on his arm, her voice dripping sweetness. A woman who knew exactly what she wanted. And she wanted more than just my husband. She wanted his money, his job, his loyalty, his downfall. And he had followed her. Mr. Walden slid something across the table. A printed sheet. I picked it up. It was a photo. Grainy but unmistakable. Derek and Tasha together in a parking lot. His hand gripping her waist, hers tugging his tie. The timestamp was from 3 weeks ago. My vision blurred. He told me he was working late that night. I know. Hot humiliation spread across my chest, followed by a cold, sharpening anger. What happens now? I asked, voice unsteady. Well, Mr. Walden said, Michael asked me to tell you something. He wants you to come to the office tomorrow. Why me? To give a statement. You are a potential victim of spousal entanglement in a financial crime. They need your version of events. I'll do it, I said without hesitation. He nodded. Good. And there's one more thing. I raised my eyes. We need to talk about your safety. I froze. Why? Because last night, he lowered his voice, your husband came back. My breath caught. What? When? About 2 hours after you fell asleep. He banged on your front door for almost 10 minutes. Then he stormed around the block. He didn't try to enter my property, but he was furious. My hands trembled around the mug. What did he want? We don't know, but he was yelling your name. A cold shiver ran through me. Remember his voice, violent when angry, unpredictable, cutting. Did he see me here? No, Mr. Walden assured me. The curtains were drawn, and the patrol car drove by shortly after. He left. I exhaled shakily. I can't go home. Not yet. I don't want you to, he said. Stay until this is handled. I nodded, fingers twisting the edge of the tablecloth. Thank you, truly. You don't owe me thanks, Amara. You were wronged, and you deserve safety while we sort this out. A moment passed. Then he reached for a folder on the counter and set it in front of me. What's this? I asked. Documents you should review. Bank accounts, joint statements, the mortgage, car titles, anything that has both your names on. I blanked. You got these? How? Michael pulled them using Derek's employee access. He didn't violate any laws. Derek stored everything on the company server. Foolish, but fortunate for us. I opened the folder, scanning the pages. My heart dropped. There were withdrawals I didn't recognize. Accounts I didn't know existed. Loans Derek took out with my name forged on the forms. Oh my God,
I whispered, my voice cracking. He put me in debt. Mr. Walden's face softened. Yes, but this, he tapped the folder, can be used to legally separate your finances. With a good attorney, you can protect yourself. Tears pricked my eyes, not from heartbreak this time, but from sheer disbelief at the depth of his betrayal. Derek didn't just cheat. He didn't just steal. He built a trap under my feet. And last night, he locked me outside like garbage. A sharp, icy clarity settled in my chest. I'm done, I said quietly. I'm finished with him. Mr. Walden gave a small, approving nod. Good. I lifted my chin. I want a divorce. You will have one, and you will walk away clean. The wind rustled lightly against the windows. The room felt different now, less like a shelter, more like the starting point of something new, something stronger. I closed the folder and sat straighter. What's the plan today? I asked. Mr. Walden smiled faintly, a mix of pride and resolve. Today, he said, we prepare. You gather everything you remember. I'll contact the right people. And when the time comes, he leaned forward. Derek will face consequences he never imagined. A slow, steady spark ignited inside me. For the first time in years, I wasn't afraid. I was ready. I spent most of the morning sitting at Mr. Walden's dining table, surrounded by papers that felt heavier than stone. My own name, my signature, twisted and distorted on documents I never signed. Accounts Derek opened behind my back. Loans taken in my name. Transactions between him and that woman, Tasha, that made my skin crawl. It was one thing to be betrayed. It was another to be framed. Every page peeled back another layer of who he had become, and part of me wondered if that man had been hidden inside him the whole time, waiting for the right person, the right temptation, to bring him out. Mr. Walden returned from a phone call, his expression serious. That was Michael. He's arranging a meeting with a company investigator tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. I nodded slowly. I'll be there. And he wants to warn you about something, he added. Derek hasn't shown up for work. They tried calling him. Nothing. A faint shiver crawled up my spine. Maybe he's hungover. Maybe, he said carefully, or maybe he's planning something. I swallowed hard. Do you think he'd try to come here? He already tried once, Mr. Walden reminded me gently. We just don't know what he'll do next. My pulse quickened. Even with the morning light, the house suddenly felt too quiet, too still, like the air itself was waiting. But I wasn't going to crumble again. I folded the last set of documents. I want to go to the house. Mr. Walden blinked. What for? To get my things, I said. If I'm divorcing him, if I'm testifying tomorrow, if I'm starting over, I need my ID, my clothes, my laptop, and my mother's Bible. I'm not leaving that man anything that belongs to me. Mr. Walden considered for a moment. Then he nodded. I'll escort you. A wave of gratitude washed over me. Thank you. He put on his coat, grabbed his keys, and we stepped out onto the cold porch. The air was sharp but bearable, and the snow had calmed into a soft, gentle dusting. As we walked across the short driveway that connected our houses, my stomach tightened. The house looked the same, but I didn't. We approached the front door. Mr. Walden looked around cautiously before motioning for me to unlock it. When I pushed the door open, a dry, stale smell greeted me, like beer, anger, and male ego left to rot overnight. The living room was a mess. The lamp knocked over, a cushion thrown on the floor, a half-empty bottle on the table.
the faint sound of dripping from somewhere in the kitchen. My throat tightened. He was here. "Stay behind me," Mr. Walden murmured. We stepped inside slowly. The house creaked in a way it never had before, each sound slicing straight through my nerves. Then nothing. Silence. "Looks empty," he said. I exhaled shakily. "Let's just grab what I need." I went to the bedroom first. My clothes were scattered, as if Derek had rummaged through drawers angrily, a shoe thrown across the room, the closet door half ripped off its track. I gathered clothes, anything clean I could fit into a duffel bag. Then I grabbed my laptop, charger, birth certificate, social security card, and the Bible my mother passed down to me. My hands trembled slightly as I packed, not from fear, from anger, from violation. He had torn through my things like they were worthless. When I returned to the living room, Mr. Walden was studying something on the coffee table, a folded piece of paper. "What's that?" I asked. "I think Derek left it." He handed it to me. My stomach twisted as I unfolded it. It wasn't a note. It was a printed bank transfer receipt. $8,450 transferred from J. Anderson to T. Blake, date 2 days ago, time 11:58 p.m. My breath stalled. That was the night he told me he'd be working late. "I thought that's when he visited her," I whispered. Mr. Walden frowned deeply. "There's something else. Look at the bottom." I looked. "Authorization, J. Anderson, ID verification, pass." I dropped the paper. "He used my ID," I said, my voice cracking. "He used my ID to send for money." My knees weakened. I sat down hard on the couch. He wasn't just cheating. He wasn't just stealing. He was laundering money through me. My hands shook as I pressed them to my forehead. He could ruin my life, legally, financially. He could... But before I could finish, we heard it. A car door outside, a heavy slam, then footsteps, slow, deliberate, getting closer. Mr. Walden's eyes snapped toward the window. "Stay here." He moved toward the front door. I stood behind the couch, heart racing so loud it pulsed in my ears. The steps stopped right outside the door. Then, bang, bang, bang. "Open the door, Amara." Derek's voice, rough, uncontrolled, threatening. "No," Mr. Walden said firmly from behind the door. "She's not speaking with you. She's my wife. She belongs in this house, not over there with you." My chest tightened. I could picture his face, the rage, the redness, the way his eyes bulged when he felt cornered. He was spiraling. "Derek, leave," I called out, keeping my voice steady. "I'm done. You need to go." "Oh, you're done? You're done? No, you're not. You're going to listen to me right now." He shoved the doorknob violently. I jumped. He shoved his shoulder into the door once, twice, the wood groaning each time. "Back up," Mr. Walden snapped, pulling me behind him. Another slam. Then Derek roared, "You think you can take my job, my money? You think you can ruin me?" I felt my courage rising, slow but powerful. "You ruined yourself." Silence. Then a laugh. A horrible, broken laugh. "You don't know anything, Amara." I swallowed. "Then tell me." "I will," he said darkly, "because I'm tired of hiding it." The doorknob turned again, this time not violently, but deliberately. "Derek, walk away," Mr. Walden warned. "I'm calling the police." "Call them," Derek shouted. "Call whoever you want, because before they get here, Amara is going to hear the truth about what I've been doing and who I've been doing it for." I froze. For? Not with. For? What did that mean? Before I could ask, Derek's voice dropped low. Cold, dangerous.
Amara, you have no idea who you're messing with. The way he said it made my blood run cold because it didn't sound like he was talking about himself. And suddenly, for the first time, I wondered, what if Derek wasn't the real danger? What if he was working for someone worse? The door shook again, and then we heard something that made every hair on my arms rise. A second pair of footsteps on the porch. Slow, heavy, controlled. Then a woman's voice. Derek, move. I'll handle this. Tasha, she was here. And she didn't sound scared. She sounded in charge. I backed away from the door, pulse pounding in my throat. Mr. Walden whispered urgently, Amara, get behind me, now. Then the woman outside said something that froze my soul. We need her. The boss said she signs next.
For a moment, I genuinely thought my heart stopped beating. We need her. The boss says she signs next. Those words echoed through the living room like a gunshot. My knees weakened, my breath caught somewhere between my ribs and my throat. I stared at the door, frozen, not just from fear, but from something deeper, something darker. Signs next? Signs what? Mr. Walden stepped fully in front of me, planting himself like a shield. His stance was low, ready, almost military. It startled me how quickly his gentle, grandfatherly face shifted into something fierce. Tasha, he called through the door, tone icy. You have 10 seconds to get off this porch. Her answer came with a smug half laugh. Or what? You'll tell your son? Please. We both know Michael can't save you from this. My stomach twisted. She knew Michael? How do you know my son? Mr. Walden demanded. Oh, stop pretending, old man. Your son's been asking questions around the company, and someone got nervous, so they sent us to fix it. Fix it. That single word made my entire body shake. Derek muttered something under his breath, too slurred to understand, before banging on the door again. Amara, come out. They just want to talk. I flinched at the word talk. Derek's version of talking always ended with yelling, excuses, or a hole in the wall. We're calling the police, Mr. Walden warned. At this point, Tasha scoffed, go ahead. You think we're worried about some local patrol car? Honey, the people we answer to, they don't run from badges. Badges run from them. The hair on the back of my neck stood up. Who was she involved with? And how deep was Derek in? I grabbed the edge of the couch to steady myself. My hands were trembling so badly that the fabric bunched under my fingers. Mr. Walden, I whispered, I think we should hide or go out the back or... No, he interrupted firmly. Running makes you a target. Standing still makes you a witness. But being smart, that keeps you alive. I swallowed hard. So what do we do? His eyes flicked toward the hallway. There is a safe room in the basement. A what? He built it years ago. Steel door, reinforced walls, old work project. Now move, quietly. He grabbed my arm, not roughly, but with urgency, and pulled me toward the back hallway. Outside, Tasha's voice grew sharper, louder. I'm done being nice. Derek, break the window. My blood froze. Glass shattered. I screamed before I realized any sound had left my body. Go! Mr. Walden barked. We rushed down the narrow staircase to the basement, my duffel bag bouncing against my leg, my feet slipping on the cold steps. The air grew cooler, darker. I heard the upstairs floorboards creaking, multiple sets of footsteps now. Derek's clumsy stomping mixed with Tasha's quick, controlled stride. They were inside. They were coming. Mr. Walden reached a heavy steel door and pushed me through. The room inside was small, bare concrete walls, a metal table, a single chair, and shelves lined with canned goods. No windows, one light bulb overhead. Before I could breathe, he shut the door and spun the locking wheel. The click echoed like thunder. I backed away, trembling. Oh my God! Oh my God! "It's all right," he said, pressing his palm to the steel. "They can't get through this." But his voice wasn't as confident as his words. Upstairs, footsteps pounded above us, fast, frantic. Then Tasha's voice. "She's down here, I can feel it." "Oh no," I whispered. "She's coming down." Mr. Walden motioned for quiet, pressing his finger to his lips. I held my breath. More footsteps. The basement door creaked open. Then, clack, clack, clack. Heels descending the wooden basement steps. Slow, precise, hungry. "Amara," she called, her voice dripping with venom and satisfaction. "Baby girl, where are you?" My whole body shook. Mr. Walden leaned toward the steel door and whispered, "No matter what you hear, do not open this door." I nodded, unable to speak. Tasha reached the bottom of the steps. I could hear her breathing on the other side of the wall, steady, confident. She tapped something against the steel. A ring? A knife? A gun? I didn't know, and I didn't want to know. "So this is where you're hiding. Cute. You think this door will save you, but you don't understand how deep this goes. Derek told everything." My stomach dropped. "Everything? What do you want from me?" I called out before I could stop myself. Tasha laughed low and cruel. "There she is, the little wife, the signature he needs, the access he needs, the one thing he couldn't fake." Signature. Access. My vision blurred. "What did he sign me up for?" I demanded, voice cracking. "Oh, you didn't sign up for anything. He signed you up, sweetheart, on paperwork that belongs to very, very serious people. People who don't tolerate loose ends." Loose ends. "And now," she continued, "they want you to help finish what he started." "I'm not signing anything," I shouted. "You don't have a choice, because Derek already promised them your name. And when he couldn't deliver last night, he panicked, which made them panic, which is why I'm here." She leaned closer to the steel. "Knock, knock, Amara. Time to be a good wife." My heart pounded so violently it hurt. Mr. Walden held out a small object, a flip phone. "Emergency line," he mouthed. I grabbed it with shaking hands and dialed. Outside the door, Tasha said, "Derek, go find something heavy." He staggered, muttering, "Like what?" "I don't know. The toolbox, the crowbar, something." Oh, God. I pressed the phone to my ear. It rang once, twice. Then a voice answered, 911, what's your emergency?" I whispered fast and desperate. "Two people broke into my home, my husband and a woman named Tasha Blake. They're trying to force me to sign something. I'm trapped in a basement safe room. They're trying to break down the door. Please hurry." The operator's tone sharpened. "Help is on the way. Stay where you are." But then, a screech of metal. A thud. Again. Harder. Derek's slurred voice shouted, "I got the crowbar." Tasha yelled, "Hit the hinges." The steel groaned under the force. I backed into the far corner of the room, my breath trembling so violently it came out in sharp gasps. Mr. Walden grabbed a metal rod from the shelf, just in case. The next blow was even harder. The entire room rattled. "They're going to break in," I whispered. "Mr. Walden, they're going to get inside." He pressed his back to the door, bracing it with his full weight. "One more minute," he whispered urgently. "The police just need one more minute." But the hinges were screeching, bending. Another blow. Another. A scream tore from my throat. Then, above us, sirens. Multiple. Loud. Close. Tasha cursed, "Derek, drop it. They're here." Derek stumbled. "No, no, we can still—" "Now!" she screamed. Footsteps, scrambling, running up the stairs. The basement door slammed. Silence. Then the thunder of police boots. Someone shouted, "Police, don't move!" I sank to the floor, hands over my face, sobbing from pure relief and terror and exhaustion all at once. They had come. They had gotten here in time. But as the commotion continued upstairs, a horrible realization crept into my bones.
If Tasha had talked this openly, if she wasn't afraid of the police, if Derek was working for someone powerful, then this wasn't over. This wasn't even close to over. And whatever they wanted me to sign, it wasn't small. It wasn't simple. It was something big enough to make people like Tasha kick down doors. Something big enough to destroy lives. And I had a feeling mine was at the top of that list.
The moment the police opened the safe room door, I felt the weight of the night settle into my bones. My legs were shaking so badly I almost collapsed. Cold air from the hallway rolled into the small steel chamber, carrying the scent of winter and gun oil and something metallic. Fear, maybe, or adrenaline. "Ma'am, you're safe now," one of the officers said, offering a hand. Safe. The word felt foreign, because nothing about this was safe. Not Derek, not Tasha, not whatever I had been dragged into without my knowledge, and definitely not the look on Mr. Walden's face. Stern, calculating, worried in a way he didn't want me to notice. They brought us upstairs. The windows were shattered. Glass glittered across the floor like ice crystals. The living room looked like a crime scene, because it was. But Derek and Tasha were gone. "Are they in custody?" I asked, hugging myself. One of the police officers shook his head. "They ran before we entered. Snow makes footprints easy to track. We're working on it." Working on it. That didn't help my heart rate. Another officer approached us with a notepad. "Ma'am, we need a full statement, both of you." I nodded, but Mr. Walden subtly touched my elbow and whispered, "Only say what you know for certain, nothing more." That sentence lodged itself like a thorn in my mind. Why would he say that? Why would I say anything else? Unless there was more here. More he already knew. The interview was long, exhausting. My throat ached from talking. I repeated the same details over and over. Derek's drunken rage, Tasha's threats, the forced entry, the safe room, the crowbar. But I did not repeat what she said about the paperwork, very serious people, your signature, and loose ends. Something inside me recoiled every time I thought about sharing it. Instinct? Fear? Or the memory of Mr. Walden's warning. When the police finally left, flashing lights fading into the night, silence filled the house. A cold, heavy silence, the kind that presses on your lungs. Mr. Walden locked the door, bolted the hinges, then exhaled. "They won't be back tonight." "Tonight?" I repeated. "What about tomorrow?" He didn't answer. He placed a gentle hand on my shoulder. "You should rest." Rest, as if sleep were possible. But I nodded because my muscles were trembling and my teeth were chattering, not from cold but from shock. He prepared the guest bedroom for me, fresh blankets, warm tea, a soft lamp. The room smelled like lavender and old books, safe, warm, comforting. I should have collapsed, but my mind was spiraling. I sat on the bed, knees pulled up to my chest, tea untouched. Then I heard footsteps in the hallway, slow, steady. Mr. Walden tapped on the door. "Can I come in?" I nodded. He entered quietly, closing the door behind him. His eyes were darker now, thoughtful. He needed to ask me something. I stiffened. "Okay?" What did she mean when she said they needed your signature? I swallowed hard. I don't know. "Amara." His voice softened but held steel underneath. "You do know something." Tears burned my eyes. She said Derek signed me up for something. Something involving serious people. Something I never agreed to. Mr. Walden sat on the edge of the bed, hands folded. "Did you ever sign anything for Derek? Papers you didn't read? Documents he pushed in front of you?" I flinched. Because, yes, I had. 2 months ago, Derek had shoved a stack of papers at me before work, saying he needed my signature for insurance-related documents because he messed up a renewal deadline. He was shouting, I was running late, I didn't check a single page. My stomach twisted violently. Oh God, I whispered. What if that wasn't insurance? What if... Mr. Walden placed a steadying hand on my back. It might not have been. And the fact that Tasha mentioned access, that worries me. What kind of access? He exhaled slowly before answering. Financial. A chill crawled up my spine. Are you saying Derek used my name for some kind of fraud? His silence was answer enough. I buried my face in my hands. This can't be happening. I didn't do anything. I didn't know. You're not at fault, he said firmly. But you are involved, whether you like it or not. Tears spilled down my cheeks. He handed me a tissue. Listen to me carefully. Whatever Derek was part of, whoever those people are, they wanted to use you to finalize something they couldn't do without you, which means they're going to come after me, I finished with a shaking voice. He didn't deny it. My breath hitched. I looked up, panic rising like bile. What do I do? What if they find me? What if they force me to sign something? You won't sign anything, he said sharply. And you're not alone. My son and I have connections at the company, people we can trust. But before we involve anyone, I need to know something. He leaned closer. His voice dropped to a whisper. When Derek had you sign those papers, did you use your full legal signature? The same one you use for bank forms? I nodded slowly. Yes. He closed his eyes. That makes this more complicated. What does that mean? I asked, fear spiking again. It means, he said carefully, Derek could have used your signature to authorize transfers, shell accounts, or internal approvals, things you could be held legally responsible for if we don't act fast. My chest tightened. Oh my God! But don't panic. His voice grew steady, grounding. This is not the first time Derek has pulled something reckless, and it won't be the last time he's caught. We just need to move before they do. A soft buzzing came from his pocket. He checked his phone, eyes narrowing. It's Michael. He wants to meet. He says it's urgent. Tonight? Yes. And he never sends messages like this unless something serious is going on. He stood, adjusting his jacket. You stay here. Lock the door. Don't open it unless you hear my voice. Fear clutched my ribs. You're leaving. Only for an hour. I need information. And Michael has it. I shook my head. I'm scared. His expression softened. I know. But this is the first real step toward getting you out of this mess. He walked towards the door, paused, and said, Whatever happens, whatever you learn, you must remember this. Derek didn't just betray you emotionally. He betrayed you legally, financially. And the people he works for don't forgive mistakes. A shiver ran through me. And right now, he glanced down the hallway, voice dropping even lower, you are the biggest mistake he ever made. He left. I locked the door. And for the first time since the night began, I realized something terrifying. Derek wasn't running. He was regrouping. And people like Tasha, people like the one she worked for, they don't stop. Not until they get what they want. And what they wanted was me. I sat on the edge of the bed, clutching the blanket so tight my knuckles turned white. The house felt too quiet, like the walls were holding their breath. Every creak made my heart race. Every shadow felt like it might move. I kept replaying Mr. Walden's words in my mind, each sentence sharper than the last. You are the biggest mistake Derek ever made. It played on repeat like a warning, a threat, a prophecy. I checked the lock on the bedroom door again, still secure. I checked the window, double latched. Then I slid down onto the carpet, pressing my back against the door like I could physically hold danger out with my own body. But danger wasn't outside. It was inside my name, inside my signature, inside a marriage that had become a trap I hadn't even known I was walking into. I tried to calm myself. I tried counting my breaths. But the moment I closed my eyes, I saw Derek's face, twisted with rage, spittle flying from his mouth as he shoved me into the cold. I heard Tasha's voice dripping venom. She's loose ends now. Loose ends. Me. I jumped when my phone vibrated on the nightstand. I crawled across the carpet and grabbed it, my hands trembling so hard I nearly dropped it. Unknown number. No. No. The text preview slid across the screen. Why did you call the police? My blood iced over. Another text popped up instantly. You weren't supposed to do that. I covered my mouth to keep from screaming. The third message came slower, almost like whoever sent it wanted me to feel every second of dread. We just need you to sign. Make this easy. My breath shattered. A pressure built in my chest like my ribs were closing in. I didn't respond. I didn't move. But they knew where I was. They knew what had happened. They knew I hadn't signed whatever Derek needed me to. A fourth message appeared. Derek is losing patience. I dropped the phone like it burned. My first instinct was to call 911 again, but what would I say? Someone wants my signature? Someone texted me vague threats? They'd tell me to block the number and call back if something physical happened. But physical was coming. I could feel it. I stood up and began pacing the room, breathing fast and shallow. I felt like I was suffocating. I wrapped my arms around myself, trying to hold my body together. I had survived being thrown outside in winter. I had survived a marriage that broke pieces of me over time. But this felt like the beginning of a storm I wasn't ready for. After nearly 20 minutes, my phone buzzed again. But this time, it was a call. Mr. Walden. I answered so quickly I almost dropped the phone again. Hello? Are you okay? What did Michael say? His voice was calm. Too calm. Amara, we need to talk. My knees weakened. What happened? He hesitated. That alone terrified me. Yes, he said quietly, and you're not going to like it. He hung up. I stared at the screen, pulse ringing in my ears. My hands were ice cold. 10 minutes felt like a lifetime. I forced myself to sit on the bed, but my leg bounced uncontrollably. Every sound outside made me flinch. Footsteps. A car door. The wind slapping a loose branch against the siding. Then, finally, footsteps on the stairs. Slow. Heavy. I held my breath. A gentle knock. It's me, Mr. Walden said. Open the door. I unlocked the door and pulled it open. He stepped inside quickly and shut it behind him. His face was pale, his jaw tense. He took off his coat with deliberate slowness and set it on the chair. We need to go over what Michael showed me. I swallowed. Okay. He sat on the edge of the bed. I sat next to him, hands clasped tightly in my lap. He exhaled. Amara, you were added as a co-signer to a financial approval process at Derek's workplace. But I don't work there. You do, he corrected gently. On paper. My head snapped up. What? No, I've never... I know you didn't. But listen to me carefully. He leaned closer, lowering his voice. Your signature, your full legal one, was used to authorize a transfer of corporate funds. My world tilted. What kind of funds? $48,000. My heart plummeted. No, that can't be right. I didn't sign anything like that. You signed something, he reminded me softly. You just didn't know what it was. Tears filled my eyes. Why would Derek do that to me? He looked at me with a mix of sympathy and frustration because he needed someone clean, someone with no record, someone who he could manipulate. I pressed my shaking hands to my mouth. And the people involved, he paused, choosing his words carefully, they're not street criminals. They're professionals, the kind who don't want law enforcement involved, the kind who use people and then erase them. My stomach twisted into knots. He continued, voice tightening, and now they think you're refusing to play your part. I remembered the text messages. Make this easy. You weren't supposed to do that. Derek is losing patience. I felt sick. What am I supposed to do? You're not signing anything, and you're not talking to Derek. Not alone. Not ever again. I nodded, tears streaming silently. Then he hesitated. And when he spoke again, his tone was different, more urgent, more dangerous. Amara. Michael found something else. I stiffened. What? He met my eyes. Derek didn't just add your name to the company fraud paperwork. My stomach dropped. He added your name to something else. My voice barely came out. What else? Mr. Walden swallowed hard. A life insurance policy. My heart stopped beating. A policy worth $250,000. He inhaled shakily, and Derek listed himself as the sole beneficiary. For a moment, everything froze. The air, the walls, my thoughts, until the truth hit me like a blow to the chest. Derek didn't just want my signature. He wanted me gone. Gone permanently. My breath came out in jagged gasps. Mr. Walden grabbed my hands. Amara, look at me. You are not safe with him. You cannot go home. You cannot contact him. And we need to move fast. My voice cracked. Is he trying to kill me? Mr. Walden didn't answer. He didn't have to. His silence said everything. And then a sound echoed downstairs. A soft but distinct click. The front door unlocking. Mr. Walden's head snapped toward the bedroom door. My heart thundered. Footsteps entered the house. Slow. Heavy. Familiar. My breath froze in my chest as a shadow paused outside the bedroom door. And then a voice. Low and cold. Amara, open the door. Amara, open the door. My entire body froze. That voice, the low, cold drawl I'd lived with for years, slid under the door like smoke. Derek. He was inside the house, inside the same hallway, close enough that I could hear the faint scrape of his boots on the wood floor. Mr. Walden immediately motioned for me to back away from the door. I stumbled backward until my calves hit the bed. He moved silently toward the handle, positioning himself between me and danger like a shield. My pulse roared in my ears. My breathing became quick, shallow pulls. My hands shook so violently I had to clutch the blanket to keep them still. The doorknob rattled, metal against metal. Then Derek spoke again, this time lower, colder. I know you're in there, both of you. Mr. Walden stiffened. Derek chuckled, slow, mocking, too calm for a man who'd broken into a house. You think I don't recognize the way my wife breathes when she's scared? I heard her the second I walked in. I clapped my hand over my mouth. Tears burned behind my eyes. His footsteps shifted, pacing just outside the door. "You're making this so much harder than it needs to be, baby. We just need one little thing sorted out." Sorted out. Like I was paperwork, a task, a chore. Mr. Walden cleared his throat. "I'm trespassing on my property. You need to leave before I call the police again." Derek laughed outright at that. "Go ahead, call 'em. I'll be gone before they get up the street." His tone turned sharp, like a blade sliding from a sheath. "I only need 30 seconds alone with her." My heart jerked. Mr. Walden stepped closer to the door. "You'll never get that." Derek's voice hardened. "You gonna fight me? You really think you can stop me? This is between me and my wife." "She's not your property," Mr. Walden snapped. The hallway went silent. Then Derek's voice dropped to a dark whisper. "You don't know what she's cost me." I flinched. The venom in his tone. He wasn't angry. He was unraveling. He continued, pacing again. "I told her to sign the paperwork. I told her we needed to finish this. But no, she had to run. She had to go crying to other people. She had to make everything messy." My stomach twisted. Then he raised his voice, not shouting but projecting through the door, almost rehearsed. "Amara, open this door right now, or whatever happens next is on you." I pressed myself harder into the wall, shaking violently. No matter how many times I blinked, I saw flashes of his face the night he threw me outside, rage twisting him into something I barely recognized. Mr. Walden finally spoke, voice firm. "I'm warning you, Derek. Walk away." For a moment, Derek went quiet. Too quiet. Then, a sudden violent crack slammed into the door. I screamed and jumped backward. Derek was hitting it hard. Wood splintered near the lock. Another blow. The hinges rattled. "Derek, stop!" I cried instinctively. He paused, panting on the other side. "See? That's all I needed. Hearing my baby talk to me." Mr. Walden grabbed my wrist and pulled me behind him again. "Don't say another word." But Derek wasn't finished. A new sound echoed, metal scraping. He had something in his hand. A crowbar? A tool? A weapon? He wedged it into the doorframe and yanked. The wood groaned. The lock bent. I clutched the bedpost, tears streaming uncontrollably. "Please, please stop." "Amara, I ain't leaving until you sign," he snarled. "You think you can hide? Think this old man can protect you? You belong to me." "No, she doesn't," Mr. Walden snapped. Derek slammed into the door again. "You don't get a say in my marriage. You forfeited any claim the moment you endangered her life." Silence fell again, but this time it vibrated with something dangerous. A shift. A decision being made on the other side. Then Derek said something that chilled my blood more than the winter night could ever. "She was worth more to me dead." My knees buckled. Mr. Walden grabbed the doorknob as if bracing himself, jaw rigid. "That's enough." Derek exhaled sharply. "Move out the way. This is between us." Suddenly, footsteps rushed up the stairs. Loud, quick, heavy, multiple footsteps. Then, "Dad!" It was Michael, and behind him, another voice, deep and authoritative. "Police, open up." I covered my mouth, gasping for relief. The hallway erupted in chaos. Order shouted, boots pounding, Derek yelling something intelligible. Two officers tore Derek away from the door. I heard a scuffle, a grunt, a thud, handcuffs snapping shut. "Let me go! That's my wife!" "Sir, you are under arrest." "You don't understand. She owes me." The officers drowned him out as they dragged him down the stairs. He thrashed and kicked, wild with rage. Michael knocked softly. "Amara?" "It's okay. He can't hurt you." Mr. Walden unlocked the door, and the moment it opened, my legs gave out. He caught me before I hit the floor. My sobs were silent but raw, tearing through my chest. His arms wrapped around me like a safety net I didn't know I needed. He spoke a breathing. "It's over," he whispered. But I shook my head immediately. No, it's not over. Not even close. Because as they dragged Derek out the front door, he twisted his neck, eyes burning into mine. You think this changes anything? You think this is done? Those people don't care about cuffs. They're coming for you. They don't need me anymore. My stomach flipped violently. An officer shoved him into the car. Mr. Walden pulled me back inside. Don't listen to him. He wants to scare you. But the look in Derek's eyes wasn't just anger. It was certainty. A certainty that made my skin crawl. Michael came in behind us and closed the door firmly. Dad, we need to talk. Now. Mr. Walden helped me sit on the bed before stepping aside to join Michael near the window. Their voices dropped low, but fear sharpened my hearing. Michael whispered urgently, Dad, Derek wasn't acting alone tonight. Mr. Walden stiffened. What do you mean? He wasn't the only one in the car. My heart stopped. Michael continued, voice tense. There was another man waiting in the passenger seat. He took off the second the cops arrived. A trembling chill slithered up my spine. Mr. Walden's voice went dark. Did you see his face? No, but I got the plate, and Dad, this is bigger than we thought. I could barely breathe. Michael hesitated before adding, and that man? He's tied to the same shell company that signed Amara's fake employment paperwork. Darkness washed over me. Mr. Walden turned back toward me slowly, his expression tight with concern. Amara, you need to know something. My voice cracked. What? This isn't just a fraud case anymore. He stepped closer. This is a criminal enterprise, and they already know your name. The room spun. A cold truth sank into my bones. Derek was behind bars, but the people he worked for were still out there, and they still wanted me.
For a long moment, none of us spoke. The weight of Michael's words settled over the room like a slow-moving storm, thick and suffocating. My heart thudded painfully, each beat stealing a little more air from my lungs. A criminal enterprise. And they already knew my name. I felt small, smaller than I had ever felt in my life. But beneath the terror, something else flickered, something stubborn, something that refused to die inside me no matter how scared I became. A tiny spark of fight. Mr. Walden sat beside me again, softer this time, steadying. Amara, I know this is terrifying. I know you feel like your whole world just got torn open, but listen to me. You are not alone in this. I stared at the floor. They won't stop. That's why we're not going to sit here and wait for them, he said firmly. We're going to get ahead of it. Michael pulled up an email on his phone. I already sent the license plate to a friend in the cyber unit. Dad, they'll be able to track the shell accounts through the vehicle registration. What does that mean? I whispered. It means, Michael said, crouching so he was eye level with me, the same people who used Derek are now going to be exposed. It opens a path for law enforcement to go after the right targets, not you. But Derek said they'd come for me, I whispered. He said they don't forget loose ends. They don't, Mr. Walden admitted quietly. But they don't survive full investigations either, not when people like Michael's team gets involved. His confidence helped, but only a little. My whole body still felt like a live wire, sparking with fear. I pressed my palms together tightly. What happens to me now? What if they try again? What if the man in the car? They won't come here, Michael interrupted gently. The police are already monitoring the area, and you're staying with us until this is over. I looked toward the window, where the reflection of police lights still faintly flickered from the street. The night felt cold, heavy, wide, too wide for me to outrun danger. Mr. Walden leaned forward, voice steady. We take the next steps one at a time. First, a formal statement with the Financial Crimes Unit. Second, protection. Third, clearing your name. And Derek? I asked weakly. Derek is finished, he said simply. But his tone held something final. Something almost mournful. Michael added, based on what the officers found on him tonight, he's not getting out anytime soon. I closed my eyes. The truth was heavy. Derek wasn't just a bad husband. He wasn't just a man who lost his temper, who cheated, who lied. He had become a danger, a man willing to erase me for money, for greed, for people he never should have been involved with. How had I slept beside that? How had I ever loved that? Tears spilled, and I wiped them quickly. I feel like a fool. You were trusting, Mr. Walden said. That's not foolish. That's human. But I wasn't sure I believed him. Not yet. A soft knock sounded on the doorframe. It was one of the officers. Ma'am, we need a few details from you before we leave tonight. Mr. Walden stood protectively. She'll give them in the living room. I nodded shakily. Walking down the hallway felt like walking through the aftermath of a tornado. The door Derek tried to break was splintered. The stairs still held muddy scuffs from the struggle. The front door was cracked open, police radio chatter floating faintly through the winter air. I sat on the couch, bundled in a blanket, as I answered question after question. Dates, signatures, arguments, the night I was locked outside. My voice wavered, but I held myself together. Halfway through, the officer said something that made my stomach twist. Ma'am, from what we can see so far, it does appear you were used to facilitate the transfers, but once the fraud team reviews your statement and handwriting samples, they'll be able to verify your innocence. My innocence. My innocence. I hadn't expected to hear those words spoken aloud. Thank you, I whispered. It took nearly an hour before the officers left. By then, I could barely hold myself upright. Mr. Walden guided me back upstairs, but this time he didn't leave me alone. He stayed seated in the chair near the bed, arms crossed, not out of impatience, but protection. Try to rest, he murmured. I can't, I whispered. He nodded, as if he expected that answer. Then just breathe. That's enough for now. But even breathing felt like work. After a while, Michael came up the stairs again, holding his tablet. He had that same serious expression he always wore at the company, focused, sharp, intimidating in that calm, controlled way. I got another update, he said. Mr. Walden sat straighter. Good or bad? Both. My stomach clenched. Michael held up the tablet. The plate traces back to a rental, paid for in cash, but the man who rented it has a record. He's a known associate of a laundering ring operating out of 3 counties. I swallowed. So he's dangerous? Michael nodded silently. Then he added, but because Derek was arrested tonight, they're going to assume he flipped. That means they'll be more focused on covering their tracks than coming after you. The logic made sense, but my fear didn't. And you're not going anywhere alone for the foreseeable future, Mr. Walden added. Not even to work? I asked. He shook his head, especially not to work. A shaky exhale left me. What am I supposed to do? You survive, he said simply. That's step 1. Everything else comes after. I leaned back, eyes burning. I'm so tired. You will get through this, Amara, he said with conviction. I have seen people crumble under far less and rise from far worse. And you, he paused, meeting my eyes. You've been surviving a bad marriage so long you don't even recognize your own strength. A sob escaped me. But it wasn't just fear this time. It was release. Then, just when I thought the night couldn't twist again,
Michael's phone vibrated. He looked at the screen and his brow furrowed. "What is it?" Mr. Walden asked. "It's the cyber unit," he murmured. "They found something else." He turned the screen toward us. My breath snagged in my throat. There, as clear as day, was my forged signature, on documents I never saw, attached to accounts I never opened, linked to transfers I never authorized. And beneath that, another document, a pending transfer request, one requiring only one more signature. Mine. The authorization deadline was midnight, less than 2 hours away. Mr. Walden stood up abruptly. "They're trying to push the final approval through before the banks flag the arrest." Michael nodded grimly. "They need her signature tonight, and if they can't get it, they'll try again." Mr. Walden finished. My pulse hammered, and then Michael said the words that shattered every illusion of safety I had left. "They're not done, Amara. They're regrouping." I felt the room tilt. The shadows deepened. My chest tightened, because the truth hit me. Derek was gone, but the danger wasn't. And midnight was coming.
Midnight. The word echoed in my head like a countdown I couldn't outrun. Every tick of the clock sounded heavier, louder, as if the entire house vibrated with it. 11:09 p.m. Less than an hour. I sat on the bed, wrapped in the blanket Mr. Walden had draped over me. Michael paced near the window like a silent guard, his jaw tight. Mr. Walden was on the phone again, low voice, rapid tone, speaking to someone higher up in law enforcement. My nerves buzzed beneath my skin. Fear, exhaustion, anger, they all blurred together. "What do they want from me?" I whispered finally. Michael stopped pacing. "They want the last piece, the last signature. Without it, the entire laundering chain collapses. They use Derek as their puppet. They use you as the disguise." "So if they get it," he said, "they clean out the remaining accounts and disappear, and you'd be left holding the legal fallout." I swallowed hard. "And if they don't get it?" He met my eyes. "Then they panic." The silence that followed was heavy. At 11:22 p.m., Mr. Walden ended his call. "All right, they're mobilizing another unit to trace the digital trail before the authorization window closes." "Will that stop them?" I asked. "No," he said honestly, "but it slows them, buys us time." He sat beside me again. "We just have to get past midnight." Just past midnight. Like surviving the longest night of my life. But fear made time stretch like an endless tunnel. Every creak of the house made me jump. Every passing car sent my heart into my throat. The winter wind outside felt like claws scraping at the edges of my safety. At 11:38 p.m., Michael's phone vibrated again. He glanced at the screen, then exhaled, slowly, purposefully. He said, "It's done. The authorization window closed. They can't make another attempt." My shoulders sagged with relief so deep it nearly broke me. "Are you sure?" I whispered, trembling. "Yes," he said softly. "It's over." But the truth was, it didn't feel over. Not yet. A weight lifted, yes, but another settled. Grief, shock, the beginning of understanding everything I had truly lost. Derek, my marriage, my trust, the life I thought I had. I wasn't free from consequences, but I was free from danger. A faint laugh escaped me, shaky, exhausted, half sobbing. "I thought I was going to die today." Mr. Walden's voice softened. "You lived, and you fought, and you chose yourself, even when he didn't." I wiped my face. I didn't feel brave. That's what makes it bravery, he murmured. Strict 3 in the morning. That feeling of finally coming up from underwater. Mr. Walden walked me to the guest room where the bed had been made neatly, warm linens and a soft lamp waiting. He said, "You should try to sleep." I nodded. "Just for a little." He paused at the doorway. "Amara?" "Yes?" "You're stronger than you know." The door clicked softly shut, and for the first time in months, maybe years, I cried not out of fear, but out of release. The next morning felt like waking into a different life. Cold sunlight filtered through the curtains. The house was quiet, still, safe. Mr. Walden sat at the kitchen table reading an early morning report on his tablet. He looked up and smiled softly. "Morning." I sank into the chair opposite him. "Do you think I'll ever feel normal again?" "Not the old normal. Something better." I sipped the tea he had set out for me. Warm, calm, steady. I asked, "What happens now?" "Now," he said, "we clear your name officially. We get you financial protection. We set you up separately so Derek can't touch another piece of your life." "And Derek?" He said, "He will go to trial. And this time, he won't escape the consequences." I inhaled shakily. That was enough. Enough justice, enough closure, enough to start over. The next day, I moved into a small but bright apartment, paid for by my own reinstated savings, protected under supervision until the case closed. I started therapy. I filed for divorce. I blocked every number, every email, every shadow of Derek's influence. And every morning, I woke a little stronger. And every night, I breathed a little easier. The trauma didn't vanish, but neither did my resilience. And as winter melted into early spring, I finally understood. The night he locked me out wasn't the end of something. It was the beginning, a violent, cruel beginning, but a beginning nonetheless. The night I froze on the porch, shaking in my nightgown, begging for mercy. That was the moment I stepped out of a life built on lies and into a life built on truth. My truth, my strength, my future. I survived him, and that was the real ending.